random review for a random day about a random toy, or maybe not so random because it's long overdue for me to finish up looking at Cybertron's Cybertron Defense trilogy of figures with the Ultra Class Red Alert. Now, before I begin, thank you to everyone who's been looking at the eBay sales and helping me out by taking something off of the list. I've been adding some new stuff here and there, and I'll be doing so throughout the week, so I'll leave the link in the description for anyone else who might be interested in something that needs a new home. So thank you to all those who've been helping me there. So with that out of the way, let's actually take a look at this hefty figure. Red Alert Ultra Class figure. He is a biggin. So we got this vehicle that seems to be a cross between an armored personnel carrier and a mobile missile launcher. This is basically a nuke on a set of wheels. A weapon to surpass Metal Gear. Yeah, this is kind of overkill for an Autobot, I do feel, but that kind of gives it a pretty unique place. It's the type of vehicle, like, I remember having Double Dealer as a kid, and he was this gigantic truck with an even more gigantic missile. It kind of takes me back to that. So he is cast in a fairly white plastic. It's a little off-white here in the light. I'm not sure if that's due to age or what. I've seen photos where it's pretty bright white, all things considered, but this toy has gotten on in years. I do like all the heavy-duty moldings going across it. You can see rivets and panel lines and little gaps, little viewports, openings all over. Little ladder on the side, little utility box, all sorts of things you would expect to find on some heavy military vehicle. It's all done pretty solidly as well. You notice there's really nothing hollowed out or anything like that. This is well before that time. The rocket itself is done up in more of a beige or a very pale brown plastic with plenty of gray paint to decorate it. And why would you decorate a missile? Because shut up, that's why. No, you also have little bits of dark gold around all of the thruster ports, which you can see toward the back. I don't even know if those are thrusters. There might be fuel tanks. I don't know. I don't know ballistics. I'm an American. What do I know about weapons? The paint job itself, not bad. You got a little bit of some dark areas around here that almost pass for camo, but they're actually closer to like burn marks, which I almost expected like mud splatter, but no. It looks like he's actually been rolling over some landmines, which is actually kind of an interesting paint choice. And some of that dark gold is scattered across both the front viewports as well as a few indescript drums centered in the middle of the toy. You also see a little bit of red painted across the top, as well as that unique Autobot sigil with the pair of wings. So beyond that, what's going on here? Well, 8 wheels, so he rolls very, very well. You got Minicon hard points on both sides in case you want to attach any little figures and boost up his power level, because clearly he needs more power. And you also have some dark blue molding going throughout the toy as well. Toward the back here, where we can see our Cyber Key port. Now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that gimmick in vehicle mode, because it really demonstrates the same way in both modes, and hey, this gives me more time to talk about the vehicle. The Cyber Key itself is of the Cybertronian design, red and silver of course, and on the back it says Up-Oat. Up-Oat. It's actually 0T, and back in the day it would unlock some info about the toy on the website, but that website is long since dead. So we can insert the key and actually get some sound effects and lights. I assume that means it's armed, because that's a pretty comical sound to come out of a gigantic missile, but okay. If I try that again, see if we can see the lights a little bit better. Okay, it's a standard blinking. They haven't really gotten to like super complex LEDs yet. Here's the thing that interests me. So, inserting the key opens up the rocket and reveals the actual missile launcher, which is spring launched and it does fly. Why would you have a missile that's power up is to unlock a smaller missile? This kind of logic eludes me somewhat. Like, I know, like, that's obviously where you're going to put the gimmick because it's this big thing sticking out of the toy, but that doesn't really work. Like, there's something really... that's always bugged me about this toy. It makes absolutely no sense. Okay, so what else? Well, I can launch it off, and I'll also produce a sound effect, which kind of sounds like a thruster going off, doesn't it? So maybe. So it is nice that it can actually like detach. So at least if you want the launching effect, it's there, and we can see some more details a little bit more clearly with it off. You can also actually raise this separate gun, which is hinged for who knows what reason, but hey, you can do it if you want to. So let's get this thing back on, and we can proceed by transforming it to its actual robot mode. And this one's actually pretty simple for its size. So we're going to flip out these big heavy panels that comprise the rear vehicles, the rear of the vehicle drivetrain, I guess you'd call it. Flip up these panels and separate all of this. There's this big hunk in the middle that is going to want to come with it. Just bring the legs down away from that, and this can peg to either side, but we're going to make him a lefty right now. So that swings to the back. With that, we'll move the legs down, close up these big panels, flip those panels down. Feet flip out like so, and then we get the ankles. Stiff joints, solidly built even after 10 years of age. Rotate the arms down into position. Missile slides over to the right side of the toy. From there, I'm going to raise it up a little bit to flip this down and reveal the robot mode head. Forgot it did that. Anyway, with that out of the way, that will produce our robot mode, our Cybertron Defense Red Alert, in an extremely, extremely heavy and chunky robot mode. Strangely enough, keep in mind, the smallest figure of the original trio that made the Cybertron Defense Team was the actual missile truck, the actual military vehicle. He was the medic. Red Alert was the medic. And he's the one who gets to be the gigantic bruiser with the overkill missile. It seems a wee bit skewed, I think, but for whatever reason, at the very least, Red Alert certainly works for the name of a missile launcher now, doesn't it? So, as usual, we take a look at the head, which is heavily shadowed because there's a lot of detail going on around this toy's head. It's definitely the Cybertron Red Alert style. It's got the visor and the gold face and all of that, and everything's pretty much to detail. He just looks a whole lot angrier now. He also has a target reticle for a forehead crest, which is such a subtle little detail, but man, like to go from the red cross to that kind of cross, that's a shift in attitude, my friends. That's saying something. So, of course, this big heavy bruiser carries the same color scheme, the white and the blue of the original. He swaps out a bunch of the red for orange, however, giving him a little bit of unique color from his original toy. But a lot of the color patterns are still there. If we bring in his deluxe, and we can see how much bigger the toy actually is. The blue is still present in the arms and the upper legs as well as the chest. The white's still in the same patterns. He pretty much carries the same silhouette, which is pretty much what you would expect, and it does a good job of conveying the character, even though he is in a form that is desperately not what his standard form typically is. I do like my big bruiser robots. I mean, you guys should know by now, my taste kind of leans toward the big, heavy, powerful-looking characters, and this certainly qualifies. Amongst new details, the chest, very heavy-duty. There's a few gauges in the front that's actually kind of interesting. A few rivets and panels here and there. All looks good. Extra bits of red and a little bit of white here just to keep the color scheme going and give it a little bit of breakup where necessary. I do like the color pattern. I mean, he definitely comes across as more of an Autobot character, in spite of this, because this would normally speak otherwise. It's just a strange. Anyone else see, like, if you make this out to be like the eye and you make these details out to be a teeth, where you have that, like, where they paint like the shark head on the tip of a plane or a missile? Maybe that's just me seeing it, but now if you can see it too, you will never unsee it. My mission is accomplished. So let's take a look. What else can this toy do now that we've got him in this mode? Well, he does have this big heavy shield on the side. This does detach, and it can be on either arm. The pegs exist on both sides. But we're going to make him a lefty since traditionally Red Alert is a lefty. He actually has two hands, finally. Oh my god, he can play patty cake at long last. Let's actually insert the key again. I do like these larger toys with two gimmicks. Oh man, there we go. Little stuck from age as well as how heavy the parts are, which flips out pretty long rifle, which gives him more firepower, because of course this toy needs more firepower. Why wouldn't it? But we can extend this. We can go beyond, because he's still a medic, right? So he still has some actual tools at his disposal. If we open up the legs, we can see where they are stored, which is a good use of the bulk. So let's actually get these things out if we can. This is what I was afraid of. Okay, this thing always gets stuck. Be right back. Got it. Okay, we're good now. All right, so hidden in his right leg, we have this big claw, which, ironically, the jaws of life, I could not pry out of his leg. So we'll actually go ahead and insert that now. It does have a little tab in there that keeps it in place and makes it a fairly solid tool. So he can still do a little bit of rescuing. Also, if he wants to get a little bit of melee, you also have this particular hammer that can actually attach on as well. We pop that into place, and he also has that going for him. The fun part about this, the hammer itself, spring-loaded, which means with this action here, he can literally bonk. Oh man, like, hang on, this is so stupid, but I have to do this. A little bit of post-production for you. So I'm happy they actually kept that original gimmick from his deluxe toy and gave it a little bit more of a fierce and more attitude for his newfound role as a gigantic engine of death. So as that goes, let's see what else we have here. Well, he's got Minicon ports again. This time they are on the legs, and they're completely different hard points. So credit to Hasbro for that thought. Articulation. No, here we go. Okay, so the head has full rotation. It can move left and right, though it is a pretty bulky head, so he doesn't quite have sometimes it can be a little bit stubborn getting it into some turns, but for the most part it can go 360. Let's go to the waist for now. And the waist rotates all the way around, so that's good. Legs detent, a little bit wide, but they are very heavy ratchets, so that works great. Out the knees. Knees are ratcheted as well. You can hear that spring nice and loud. Full rotation at the knees as well. The feet really don't do a whole lot of anything, but they do have some flex thanks to transformations, so you can adjust some balance on poses. Then we get to the arms, and here is where the toy bugs me to no end. So we do have a bicep rotation, that's fine. We have a 90-degree elbow, that's fine. We have a wrist rotation, that's fine. Then we get to the shoulder. Shoulder goes up, and the shoulder goes down, and that's it. There's no way to get the arm outward. Considering he has a cannon for one arm, and he can't really pose it to his side, that's frustrating. That's always bugged me the most about this toy. Like, it's even shaped to give it like a ratcheted shoulder. Like, I don't see what happened. Is I guess just between like how big he is and the electronics in the rocket, maybe the part count wasn't there, but this was the Cybertron toy line. This was the toy line that balanced gimmick and articulation and just solid figures, and this was supposed to be where that all kind of like came together, and unfortunately for some reason it just didn't on Red Alert. What is like, I'll wrap the toy up here, like what is basically a fairly simple toy in transformation engineering. He has a cool vehicle mode. I like the look of the robot mode, and I do like that his gimmicks are contained in components that fit the nature of the character and the vehicle, but are still out of the way for the most part. I don't know why it missed such a vital part of articulation. It makes the toy, even though the toy has the rest of those joints, it still makes the toy feel very stiff and limited in what it can do, and it's a definite drag down on what is otherwise a pretty good and fun toy. He is on the simplistic side, but he does have enough interesting things going on, and I do like the gimmicks, and especially because they actually do try to stay out of the way for the most part and actually still accomplish what they need to do. Not to mention, if you're going into like crazy Matrix poses with these guys, like they like to do sometimes in Cybertron, that missile does make some good adjustment for balance. I will give it that. But yeah, just that lack of outward shoulders really stiffens up the posability. But otherwise, he rounds out the set fairly nicely. And yeah, they do still rank in some of my favorite Cybertron figures. Yes, the shoulders bug me that much though.